Even all of us will be muted, so no worries. I'm really excited to hear how all of your small groups went. For folks who came a little early to the service this morning, we tried an experiment of breaking out into breakout rooms. So if you get a chance, please send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat, or actually, Rev Michelle, can you put my email in the chat, would you mind? Thank you. We'll put my email in the chat. I'd love to hear your feedback about how it was getting to socialize in smaller groups together. We want to give folks opportunities to fellowship with one another and to greet each other, both before our service and after our service. So welcome. Welcome this morning to worship at First Universalist Church. This is a warm and welcoming and just fabulous community. We're so glad you are here joining us this morning, whether you are with us for the first time or the 59th time or even further beyond. This morning, our prelude is going to be from Brock Chesvold, our fabulous music director. He'll be offering us a Bach piece on our famous and well-known Hope Jones organ. So please settle in as we start our service together. Take a deep breath. Just, settle in, get grounded in your spirit as we enjoy our prelude from our fabulous music director, Brock Chesvold. Good morning and welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and to serve the community. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. And wherever you are finding joy this week, we welcome you. We welcome all of you. It is good, it is good, it is good to be together this morning. At the top of our service, we acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people on whose ancestral lands First Universalist now stands. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. Even if you're here for the second or third time, welcome back. We have a visitors form that can be found in the chat. Please click on that link and fill it out at any time as it is convenient for you, so that we may get to welcome you better beyond this virtual sacred space. We invite everyone who is present this morning, especially folks who are here for the first or second or third time, please introduce yourself in the chat. Offer a hello, a good morning, how are you? Whatever you would like to offer this morning in our chat, we want to know that you are here. So as folks have already been doing, please join in the chorus of typing a good morning. It's great to know who's here in the room. with all of us. Welcome. Welcome to worship at First Universalist. This morning's opening hymn is hymn number 29, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. And my goodness, are you all in for a treat this morning, as our hymns will all be sung by Elizabeth Halliday Kwan, who is the wife of Reverend Sherry Halliday Kwan at our sibling congregation, First Unitarian, who is a professional opera singer and has a beautiful voice for all of us to sing along to. So let us join hearts and voices in singing together this morning, recognizing that even as we are singing muted in our own homes, across our city of Rochester, across the country and across the world, we are creating a collective song together. Let us sing together hymn number 29, I apologize. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee.
Good morning, friends. It is a joy to be with you this morning as your worship associate. Now, what is joy? Perhaps the best way I know how to describe this emotion is happiness unexpected. I find joy most often in the company of the people I love. Thinking back to the very first time I met my friends and my boyfriend, and the feeling I had of just yes with them. It was the brief, jubilant feeling, like fireworks lighting up the darkened sky. Brilliant, beautiful, and though the brightness was gone in a flash, the impact of it was felt long afterwards, like in the smokiness hanging in the air and the vibrations of my heart beating faster in your chest. And you remember those fireworks and the feeling you had when you first saw them light up the dark. That is joy to me in the most authentic way I know how to express it. So come, let us worship joyfully together. Now, as we light our chalice at First Universalist Church and in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. It is with joy that we give to this place, to this community, to this spiritual home. The joy we live with when we can be generous. The joy of giving back to a place that gives to us and to our community. The similar joy we feel when we have resources to give to another. Whether these resources be knowledge, wisdom, time, or treasure. This morning, let's give with joy and let our hearts be fuller in the giving. Please click the link in the chat to give online to First Universalist Church, or feel free to send a check to the church.
Good morning, First Universalist family. If there are children in your home who just happen to not be at the screen right now, I invite you to invite them into the room, into the screen for our story today. So joy is our theme this month, and joy seems like, woo, joy. But at the same time, we don't all feel joy about the same things. And when we're sad, we aren't all comforted and brought back to our inner joy by the same things either. So when we're reaching out to comfort and bring someone back to their joy, instead of doing what we would want, we have to figure out what they need and what touches it to their joy. So that is what our story is about today. And now this video of the story was actually created by a colleague of mine, Reverend Kimberly Davis. Enjoy. Ooh.
The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld. One day, Taylor decided to build something. Something new. Something special. Something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm sorry, so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it, cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. How horrible! I bet you feel so angry! Let's shout about it! But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trum-ta-da! I can fix this! We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering. So the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody. So eventually they all left until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit. But it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together, they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please, stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing."
As we look to find our own inner joy again, or to help someone else, we know that the technique that will work no matter what is just by being present in love and listening to that person or our own deeper self. Because in the end, we're all just walking each other home. Thank you for coming and listening to our story today. Be well.
And as we continue to listen this morning, like the rabbit did, to the many joys and sorrows of our gathered community, I want to just invite you into that space of sacred listening, that space of being sort of a warm body next to another as we enter into this reverent time. If you would like to listen from a heart-centered place, I'll invite you to place your hand over your heart, remembering that this is where we connect to one another. And as I place stones into a bowl of water, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our community. Please feel free to share them in the chat, that we may hear from our community gathered here, and that we may be able to engage in this sacred act of listening. This morning, we have a joy from Thea Holcomb, who's one of our young adults who regularly attends our midweek meditation. She has just finished her undergraduate coursework at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and we are so excited for you. Congrats, Thea. We share a joy this morning also from Aaron Scott, one of our seminarians in our congregation who recently was accepted into a clinical pastoral education program at St. Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut. Clinical pastoral education, or CPE, is an important part of Erin's ministerial formation, and we are just so excited for her. Sending love to Erin and to the Scott family in the midst of this. Fabulous. We are going to share a stone for all of those who are being vaccinated in our community, holding all those who are sharing in that good news. A joy that Steve Searles got to have coffee with his daughter together yesterday for the first time without masks. And she got all the hugs she's been missing. Beautiful. A sorrow for the loss of Nancy. Pardon me, hang on just a second. Nancy Myers, a longtime family friend who died on Tuesday in Roanoke, Virginia, from Paula Marchese, joining you in that sorrow, Paula. We are so sorry for your loss. A joy that the University of Rochester will have in-person, though restricted, graduation ceremonies this year. Yay, thinking of all of our folks who are teaching at the U of R, and for our students there too. From Pamela Jacobstein, my daughter was able to spend a week with her brother and new niece. She gets the joyful pictures. It's so great to see all these families being reunited. We do have a joy this morning from Rev Michelle, whose husband Mike is officially cleared to go back to work and is well enough to be cleared to go back to work. We have been thinking of you, Rev Michelle, and your husband Mike. Oh my gosh. From Jacob Santos. Thank you, Jacob. Wishing anyone who may be celebrating Orthodox Easter today a happy Easter. We are joining in that with our siblings in our community who are doing so. A joy from Carl Abbott, who is visiting the grandsons in North Carolina. How wonderful. A joy for new beginnings from Rachel Arado, our worship associate this morning, in a new apartment with my love and cats. Rachel, hoping you are settling in well, you and the love and the cats. We have a sorrow this morning from Kitty Forbush, a deep sorrow for the loss of her 30-year-old patient, Tara. Prayers to her family, her husband, John, and her sons, Alex, who is 3, and Alex, who is 8, and Ben, who is 3. She was wonderful. Holding you in our thoughts this morning, Kitty, and all those who knew and loved Tara. A sorrow also from Norma Sitnick. Jim Sitnick was taken by ambulance to Strong Hospital on Friday after falling. Jim will be having surgery likely early this upcoming week. And so we're just inviting everyone here in our community to keep Jim Sitnick in your prayers as he heads into a surgery. And I just want to hold one final stone a joy from Melissa Parrish that her son today is home, having completed his freshman year of college, and he will be getting his first dose of the COVID vaccine. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm now going to invite us into this time to drop this final stone into the bowl to represent all of the joys and the sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Today, we are lighting a white candle, as we do each and every Sunday, to honor that we are a congregation, a community, a city, a country, still living in the midst of the pandemic. Holding that for many of us, there is the joy of vaccination, as well as for many of us, there are still sorrows related to this illness. The sorrows of not being able to see the ones that we love who are in the hospital. The sorrows of those of us who are living with long-haul effects of this disease, and some of the difficulties, the health difficulties that are presented there. Still living in times of uncertainty, as well as times of hope. We are sitting with a lot right now as a community living through and going through a pandemic together. We are sitting with grief, joy, hope, and so much uncertainty. May this light be a beacon of hope and a reminder that we are not alone. I invite you to just take a deep breath in and out as we enter into a time of prayer and meditation with one another. Dear ones, our lives are a big mix of joys and sorrows, ups and downs. There are moments we are full of one or the other, or perhaps full of fear or worry or uncertainty, celebration or pain. We are reminded this morning that these are real moments. And we are reminded this morning that these are all often fleeting moments, that life continues on, that what we are feeling is real and it is never forever. We are reminded this morning that our hearts keep beating, our bodies keep moving, the earth keeps turning, the cycle of life continues. Neither our joy nor our sorrows have the power to stop this cyclical way of being. They certainly shape our days. They certainly shape the days of those around us. And when we look towards hope, when we dig down deep into our hearts, we know that this too shall pass. Whether or not the this is joyful or sad or something else, we know that this too shall pass. When we are grieving and inconsolable, it is hard to know that this too shall pass, and that there are days when that feels entirely impossible. But those who have known grief in their lives can also tell you that a time has come when the grief is less sharp, when the grief is in some way past. May we pay attention to the days and to the states of our hearts. May we sit in gratitude for all we experience. May we be open to the changing and to the shifting, not allowing one emotion or another to cling to us, or rather for us to get stuck in it. Let us be reminded today that this too shall pass. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. As we join in holding silence together this morning, we honor the states of our hearts and the impermanence of what we are experiencing. We may take time during this quiet to recognize what is coming up for us, to name it, to honor it, and in some way to gently loosen our grip around it. Let us enter into quiet heart space together. As we come back into this shared sacred space from the silent and private meditations of our hearts, let us join in singing our hymn of contemplation this morning, hymn number 89, Come My Way, My Truth, My Life. Our reading this morning is from the Black Liturgies Project, a project from Cole Arthur Riley, who is doing some beautiful work writing liturgy for our times. The reading begins with a quote from Tarana Burke, founder of the Me Too movement. I am grounded in joy. I'm not grounded in the trauma anymore. Joy does not forget. It remembers the pain of the past, but it is not swallowed by it. Remind yourself, your story is more than sorrow. God of story, Thank you for being a God who doesn't discard pain, but enters it. Sometimes it feels like joy is a privilege. Who is safe and well enough to partake in it? Show us the fullness of joy, that we could enter it without becoming numb to the stories that have made us. Grant us that lament, which tells the truth of our traumas without allowing them to swallow us whole and gain control where they aren't welcome. Show us the mysteries of joy, that we would no longer view it as a singular emotive happiness, but as every defiant step or move towards hope, a being held by the assurance of a cosmic and impending healing. And that somehow that assurance, that promise, would lead us back to our dignity and delight when we are moving towards despair. In her liturgical elements, she always invites the essence of breath and a breath prayer. And I'm going to invite us into that now. So as you take a deep inhale, I can belong to joy. And as you exhale, I will not hide from hope. Let us try it again. Inhale, I can belong to joy. Exhale, I will not hide from hope. One last time. Inhale, I can belong to joy. Exhale, I will not hide from hope. And there it ends our reading this morning. We pause this morning to remember that the sacred enters into our pain, that the sacred experience is an experience of sorrow, that our hurts are not to be hidden or to run away from. This is hard to remember sometimes, and I think it bears repeating, and maybe I think it bears repeating because I need to hear it. Our pain is a sacred part of the balance of life. Our joy is a sacred part of the balance of life. Our fears are a sacred part of the balance of life, and our yearnings are a sacred part of the balance of life. I sometimes wish I could be a person who feels more cheerful, joyful even, more regularly. I wonder if you ever have felt this way. I sometimes wish this were so because I want the world to experience joy, including myself, of course, because it feels good, because it is what enlivens one's heart and sets their gears in motion. I sometimes wish I were this way more regularly, that I might bring joy and hope to the world, and yet, life cannot be full of joy all the time. It is tricky because the desire for joy can be so alluring that sometimes we believe we must pretend. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm just fine. Good, even. I wonder what your usual pat response is. Does it change based on who's asking the question? I believe many of us have a sort of gut instinct inside of us that helps us to know when someone else around us, particularly those we know well, when they're lying, when they are not okay, when the mask is on and the walls are up, and sometimes it feels like the best thing we can do is just allow a friend to pretend, to allow them the dignity of sharing their struggles when they are good and ready. It's not always up to the person asking, but how are you really, to get the response we seek? And we know from our own experiences when we are lying about the heaviness of our hearts. We know when it feels like we'd rather not go into it right now, or when the person we are speaking with doesn't feel like the safe person to share with today. To sit with the pain of another can be uncomfortable. To sit with our own pain and share it and not be heard To throw someone completely aback when we share the honest truth of our heart and state of our heart, that is an aloneness that is also extremely difficult to bear, painful, panic-inducing sometimes. And so we learn our pat responses, and we learn who feels safe to share with and who doesn't, who truly listens, like the rabbit in our story this morning, and who are some of the other animals arriving in our lives, wanting to help us, but not always knowing how. We are at the beginning of May, when our exploration of the theme of joy officially begins. So why talk about sorrow so much? Why talk about the hard stuff? Sometimes I wish we just had space for solely pure, unadulterated joy. And I think we can make that space. But it is not possible to embrace joy authentically without the balance of the sorrows in life. I know from experience that if we do not allow ourselves to feel our pain, we cannot fully feel joy. If we numb ourselves to our emotions and the states of our heart, we are not able to feel anything fully. And a joy that asks us to fully, completely abandon the heaviness of our sorrows is a false joy. It is what people and the kids nowadays call toxic positivity. Before going into toxic positivity, I do want to say that we must experience joy in our lives to have lives full of meaning and purpose. And I would not say that it is the purpose of our lives to feel joy, but I would say that it is an essential part of the human experience, and it can come at some of the most unexpected times. Joy is ours to claim, not to be shied away from, no matter what is going on in your context. Joy is absolutely not a privilege. It is for all of us. To feel good, to feel great pleasure and happiness, to feel a jubilant sense of completeness. Joy is for each and every one of us. And I think too many of us are taught that there are inappropriate moments for joy. Or that if we are in the midst of struggle, we should be there with no joy to be found in our days. We are taught to shy away from joy because maybe, possibly, there is too much of a good thing. Or perhaps we were even taught to be out of right relationship with what feels good and fulfilling in our lives. I think those of us here who have experienced abuse or even formative trauma know the feeling of being broken in our relationship with our own sense of joy. Those of us who experience depression likely know this brokenness in our relationship to joy as well. It is as if joy is out of reach, and we absolutely cannot get there. And I want to say this morning that if you are someone who experiences depression, this is a place to be truly and fully, authentically yourself. Let church not be a place where you are welcome only on the days when you are feeling good. Let church not be a place where you only feel welcome when you aren't struggling and when you can put on a happy face. This is not what church is about. This is not what community is about. So sometimes when we are in modes of being out of touch with joy, or also just sometimes when we are in the midst of our own sorrows, it is in moments like this that others, out of a sense of wanting to be helpful, and more honestly, out of their own discomfort with the depression of another or the sadness of another, truck out the toxic positivity. This is not joy. For those of you unfamiliar with this term, toxic positivity, here's a few examples I got from a meme I've found that's been going around on social media. Maybe you've seen it. I think probably some of us have here too, but here are some of the quotes of examples. Being negative won't help you. Smile. Crying won't help. Or even one of the most insidious, I think for all of us inside, other people have it worse. Ugh. And of course, sort of this sense of like good vibes only, or just stay positive types of comments. All of these have their roots in toxic positivity, which is certainly not authentic joy. It is encouragement to stuff one's feelings down, to put the mask on and the walls back up. It is an invitation to suffer somewhere else, to not be real, to not truly feel the balance and the depths of one's emotions, to just stay where everything is positive and good, because that's life how life is supposed to be. So many of us know that that is pure bullshit. We know that life cannot be positive and joyful all of the time. Authentic joy is more like embracing the things that feel good in the moment, recognizing that they are good for just then and deserve to be felt in their entirety. Authentic joy takes a bit of discipline, of appreciating the present moment and allowing ourselves to feel our feelings at all spectrums and states. Authentic joy is often a moment and a feeling that is hard to name, but it is not something we must pretend. And it doesn't come out of moments when we are thinking about what others are thinking about us or how we shouldn't feel this way. Instead, authentic joy is being present to the moments of feeling good, feeling pleasure, of even being contented with what we have in a given moment, of not wishing for more or for something different. I heard Rachel describe it this morning in our call to worship. I feel like these moments are rare, but I wonder and I imagine that you have known these moments, or at least I hope you have. Have you experienced that sense of pleasure and goodness in the moment? Have there been moments in your life where the joy of another person was contagious? When you're next to someone you care about and they are having a good time and it just feels like nothing can stop this joy. A joy felt in connection with another that comes out of an authentic encounter. I love those moments. I imagine you do too. I think the key here is knowing joy and savoring it. To embrace authentic joy is to invite it in, to take a moment, a brief pause, really to recognize when joy is showing up in our lives and in our days. It sometimes feels hard to describe because joy can be fleeting. We can maybe think back to a time when we experienced joy and remember the many qualities of that moment. The invitation this morning into authentic joy is about pausing to recognize when joy is present for us, when we are happy and contented. We, each and every one of us, deserve to feel joy even in the midst of a pandemic. All of us deserve to feel joy. We deserve to feel joy even with all that is wrong in the world. It does not change that things are wrong in the world, but we are a people that need to hold both and. My own joy does not negate the suffering of another. We are here to learn to hold both. We deserve to feel joy as so much is seemingly wrong in our own lives. Just as that works outwardly, inwardly, we are here to feel and to learn how to feel both. Joy that is not something we have to pretend for the comfort of others or even for our own comfort. Joy that is true and authentic to our experience of the present moment. We deserve that joy, all of us. May any of the ways you relate to joy that feel broken be healed. May any of the messages that you do not deserve joy be shattered. May this world and those of us here today choose authentic joy over toxic positivity. May we know our own lives as a balance, a delicate dance between joy and sorrow. And may we all, each and every one of us, enjoy and savor our experiences of joy in the coming days. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Our closing hymn this morning is just a little bit different, a little bit unusual, in that it is not in our hymnal. It is the song, "I've Got the Joy Down in My Heart." If you were raised in a Christian household, which I was not, but I'm told that this might be familiar to you as something sung in your children's chapels or perhaps somewhere else. I actually started singing it around my house this morning, and my spouse was like, "Please stop." So please feel free to sing along either way, as we celebrate authentic joy together. We'll invite you to remain muted and sing out joyfully from your homes, wherever you are finding yourself. And, if you're not feeling it, just sit back and listen. We are not here to tell you that you must feel joy, 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 joy down in your heart. As we extinguish our chalice flame, both here in our sanctuary and in our own homes, let us say our chalice extinguishing words together. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Dear ones, I want to invite you now to turn your computers or your screens, wherever you're calling from, to gallery view, to be able to look upon the faces of those who are gathered here, to get to see one another's faces, and to take joy and delight in the fact that we are here this morning together. Let us reach out our hands to the edge of our screens, connecting with one another in this embodied ritual, creating a circle, an unbroken line, unbroken even in the midst of a pandemic, unbroken even in the midst of all that we feel, unbroken even in the midst of having to worship together online. Dear friends, may you go forward this morning with an authentic view of what is in your heart. May you hold both your sorrows and your joys. May you be affirmed in this place and in the other spaces you go to this week that there is no room for toxic positivity. Let us embrace and celebrate our authentic joy. May you know today that you are loved, and may you go forward and bring that love wherever you find yourself in the days to come. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Dear friends, as we come to a time to close our service, I'll invite you to type into the chat, "I embrace authentic joy," as we listen to a fugue in G major by Bach, again on our organ.